Let's talk about presuppositional apologetics in science fiction, specifically a topic shared between the Greg Bahnsen and Gordon Stein debate and the science fiction novel Three-Body Problem by Liu Cixin. Both Bahnsen's argument and Liu's novel involve the possibility of surprising events that are utterly incompatible with our current physics and what that entails for human knowledge of the world. So let's start with two sections from the Bahnsen-Stein debate.
The atheist worldview cannot allow for laws of logic, the uniformity of nature, the ability for the mind to understand the world, and moral absolutes. The validity of scientific laws were undermined by Hume when he contended that we have no rational basis for expecting the future to be like the past, or if you will, to be types of events, so that one event happening can be understood as a type of event, so where it's seen happening somewhere else, the same consequence can be expected from similar causation. Hume said we had no rational basis for that.
It's specifically the uniformity of nature point I want to talk about. I take the second passage to be expanding on this. To claim that nature is uniform is to claim that the future will always look exactly like the past. He thinks Hume's empiricism undermines this expectation, and so undermines the possibility of science in an atheist world. Let's listen to one more edited section from the Stein debate.
Do all electrons repel each other?
If they're within a certain distance of each other, yes.
Have you tested all electrons?
All electrons that have ever been tested repel each other. I have not tested all.
Have you read all the tests on electrons?
Me personally, or can I go on the witness of experts?
Have you read all of the witnesses about electrons?
All it takes is one witness to say no, and it would be on the front pages of every physics journal, and there are none, so therefore I would say yes, in effect, by default.
Well, physicists have their presuppositions by which they exclude contrary evidence too. But in other words, you haven't experienced all electrons, but you would generalize that all electrons under certain conditions repel each other.
Just statistically, on the basis of past observation.
And we don't know that it's going to be that way 10 minutes after this debate then.
No.
Bahnsen asks two questions that are distinct. So when Stein claims that all electrons repel one another, Bahnsen asks if he's tested them all. And this implies that if he hasn't, he can't be sure that all electrons do repel one another. So this question is, how do you know some electrons do not currently attract one another? The second question that Bahnsen asks is if Stein knows that electrons will continue to repel one another 10 minutes from now. So we got to keep these two questions distinct, right? One question is about the incompleteness of our physics and possible surprising observations which will force theory change. And the other question is about a change in physics itself. Importantly, the first possibility is possible in a world completely ordered by God. The world has a fundamental regularity imposed by God as the necessary being, but we don't know all the details of that regularity. So events that appear bizarre and surprising to us can occur, but they're still the result of a divine order. Alternatively, this could be a world without fundamental regularity. Events could take place that are bizarre and surprising because they are fundamentally chaotic and not the result of a divine order. The Three-Body Problem novel will help us sort out these two questions. Yeah, there's spoilers here, but get over it. Good storytelling is immune to spoiler warnings. The novel begins with a series of events that are very relevant to what Bahnsen says. Particle accelerators around the world begin throwing out nonsense results. Observation of fundamental particles begin to clash so badly with our theories that physicists actually begin committing suicide. Because what the hell, maybe the flat earthers are right after all. Now it turns out that aliens are interfering with our experiments using Clarkean sufficiently advanced technology. They want to stunt our technological advancement so they can invade us 4 centuries from now. This first example is clearly possible in a world ordered by God, barring his specific interference with the aliens. The aliens have their own problems with physics. So far as they can tell, their planet's orbit around the sun is completely arbitrary. They have no idea when the sun will rise, or when it will set, or when the sun will be so far away or so close that a civilization-destroying apocalypse will result. It turns out that their inability to track their sun is a result of a three-body problem. Their solar system actually has 3 stars in it, and their planet is constantly being pulled from the orbit of one star to another. This GIF is a simple representation of such a chaotic system. Now, the novel presents this as an actual physical possibility, and so far as a quick Google search indicates, this is correct. A planet could be caught in a ping pong match between 3 stars in such a way that the probability of the sun coming up tomorrow could never be calculated by finite creatures. To the extent that a 3-body problem is actually physically possible, then this is possible in a world ordered by God. In the world described by Greg Bahnsen, it is possible to live on a planet and not know when the sun will come up. All of this is to say is that when Bahnsen says an atheist can't account for the uniformity of nature or the future applicability of laws, he can't be saying the atheists can't exclude the apparently bizarre or the humanly incalculable, because we know the bizarre or the humanly incalculable are possible in our actual world, which by hypothesis is divinely ordered. He has to be making a stronger claim. He has to be saying that an atheist needs to accept that our particle accelerators can produce nonsense and that our expectations that the sun will rise can fail, not because of alien technological interference or a wildly complex orbital pattern, but for no reason at all. If there is a reason, then the crazy events we're thinking of are compatible with a world ordered by God. By Bahnsen's version of the atheist hypothesis, the world is not divinely ordered. So remember the 2 questions asked by Bahnsen. Has Stein examined all the electrons such that he has empirically proven that all electrons currently repel one another? And how does he know that electrons will continue to repel one another 10 minutes from now? First question holds open the possibility that it's currently true that not all electrons repel one another. We just haven't observed that. Yet, just like with aliens interfering with our research or unpredictable orbital patterns, a bizarre and unsurprising observation of 2 electrons attracting one another is possible in a world ordered by God. Only the second question involves an event which excludes divine order. This event, by hypothesis, cannot be the result of a previous cause. Otherwise, it would be included within a divine order. It also could not be an event with a sufficient reason, since an ontologically significant principle of sufficient reason is just going to be the name of a divine ontological order. The previous state of the world could have no causal or explanatory relation with such an event. This lack of causal or explanatory relation would not simply be the appearance of a lack for the finite faculties of a finite knower. It would have to be an actual lack. Since the event isn't caused or explained by the previous state, neither would it be constrained by the previous state. One time slice of the world could not dictate what was possible in the next slice. Essentially, Bahnsen's hypothetical atheist world would be a world in which anything could happen. So anything is a really big set. What exactly could delimit or describe this set is a question for a different time. Right? But that answer is not going to involve any particular set of facts about the world. What is going to be straightforwardly included in that set of anything? Well, here's a list. The appearance of our world as described by physics with all its regularity, the appearance of life, the appearance of sentience, and the appearance of sapience. By hypothesis, a world unordered by God is compatible with events that one would normally believe violate the quote-unquote rules of the world. When someone argues that life could not appear without a miracle, to the extent that they're correct, they're talking about a world divinely ordered by God. Without that divine order, life can appear without a miracle and without being a surpassingly unlikely event. The lesson here is that if God does not exist, everything is possible.